Yeah.
Anurag, Jaskirat, how are you?
Good. Can you hear
Splendid,
loud?
thank you.
Sound check. Everybody can hear each other.
I can hear you nice and clear, Jim.
Fantastic. I'm just
And I can hear
doing
you, Anurag.
a little bit of setup in the back end process. So just give me 2 minutes and we'll wait for some attendees to dial in. We've already got quite a few joining us, so we'll just give them a couple of minutes while we get some technical stuff started and Facebook live stream, etc.
Beautiful.
So for those attendees already dialed in, please feel free to share where you're dialing in from. I'll mention it again in a few minutes when we've got a few more participants, but guys, please share where you're dialing in from so we can keep a track, and it'd be good to get an idea of where's everybody coming from.
You got Brisbane.
I'm a deep swim in Brisbane twice.
Another one.
There's
There's a lot of
there
people in
you
Brisbane by
go.
the sounds of it.
So Brisbane, everybody's very punctual in Brisbane by the looks of it.
It's the time zones, maybe.
There you go, another one, Bris Vegas.
We got Melbourne on board. Victoria ticked off.
There you go. Can we get all the states? It's like a bingo.
Yeah, we're doing good. Melbourne.
There you go, Sydney.
Right, yeah. Okay, numbers are growing. So we'll just give it a few more minutes, guys, and then we'll kick off. Right, okay, I'm doing well.
Oh, New Zealand. It's going international now.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Well, we have recently expanded YSPN across to New Zealand, didn't we? I think it was just last year.
Correct. Okay, what we'll do, guys, we've got quite a few people join now. So we'll just go through a little bit of housekeeping for everyone and just give everyone an idea of how this webinar is going to go. So obviously, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to sort of give your perspective on this webinar that we're hosting. So we're going to have just a general Q&A between us, and these are questions that have been sort of come up between the team at YSPN to see how this fits in with YSPN and what we try to offer members and the pillars of YSPN, which are to assist people in their growth in career-wise and skills and upskilling. So we'll do an initial Q&A between us as a panel, and then we'll also be monitoring the Q&A through the webinar. So participants, please feel free to type questions into the Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little icon there with some speech bubbles, that's Q&A. So please type your questions away. And in the background, Hasveen back in Sydney, she will be going through the questions and she will be organizing those into a workable order, and then I'll hand over to Hasveen about 25, 30 minutes time, and she will take over the participant Q&A. So let's kick off with a little bit of an introduction. So I'm sure everybody on the call has heard of both Anurag and Jaskirat, a little show called, well, why don't I actually hand over to Anurag and Jaskirat, and just let's kick off with a brief introduction. So we've got Anurag, which is a geotech engineer by profession, and Jaskirat, strategy consultant. So if I can just have a minute from Anurag and a minute from Jaskirat, just to sort of give a sort of a bit more of a summary in terms of an introduction, where you guys are from, just for if there is any people on the webinar that don't really know who you are, or have only really seen you on the show. Just give us a summary. Let's start with Jaskirat.
Sure. First of all, hi everyone. Thanks for joining in. Like just introduced nicely, is my name is Jaskirat. Or on the show, I think a lot of people struggle to say Jaskirat, so they often just say Jazz. By profession, I'm a strategy consultant. So I will give everybody a heads up. I love talking. So someone will have to tell me to stop talking if I do continue. But look, as Jeevan was mentioning, strategy consultant, been working around for a little while. I'm based in Sydney. And to be honest, not really in this whole reality TV business or industry at all. But gave it a shot, and here we are.
Fantastic. And Anurag, just a short intro as well.
Sure. Hey guys, Anurag. As you may have seen on TV, I'm a geotech engineer. As just mentioned, I'm 29 years old, from Sydney. I was brought up in Sydney. I was born in India, New Delhi. Moved across to Australia when I was 13 years old. And yeah, I've just been growing up in a very close, tight-knit community, and being part of the YSPN community from the beginning, from the start, from the get-go. And yeah, just here to share our experiences from the show and learn from everyone else out there too at the same time.
Fantastic. So obviously, everybody, if you don't know, so it was the Amazing Race that these guys were involved with, and they were finalists. You took the bronze medal, and I think I was glued to it. It was really interesting, and I think you have that sort of when you have an identity that you can relate to, you sort of get more involved. I'd never watched the show before, but it gave me a sort of a incentive to watch. So let's do a little bit of a sort of questioning in regards to the show. And if we can start with, let's start with Anurag. So how did it come about that you guys actually were part of the show, or approached, or did you approach them? How did it work?
Well, I think we'd just come back from Philippines, and COVID hit in 2020, started 2020, and both Jazz and I absolutely love traveling. Over the past few years, we love challenging ourselves, and over the past few years, we thought about, hey, Amazing Race, it would be something epic, like this is an experience of a lifetime. Let's give it a shot. And every time we wanted to apply, we'd either be busy with family weddings, or we'd be doing a boys trip overseas, and we'd always miss the deadline. And this time around, I think someone reached out from the production team to us asking, hey, they literally stalked our social medias and said, hey, you guys would be a good fit on the show. Why don't you guys apply? And Jazz and me looked at each other and we said, you know what? Why not give it a shot? We've been talking about it for a while. Let's put in an application. And I think it was a Thursday evening, back in July last year, we just put together a 5-minute video and went through this rigorous questionnaire, a very detailed questionnaire, spent about 2 or 3 hours on a Thursday evening filling it out, and here we are.
Fantastic. And any sort of comment on you on that, Jaskirat, from your side?
No, I think that's exactly it. Like Anurag was saying, we've been thinking about doing it for many years, but that's just like us and a lot of things in life. We think about doing it, oh, we'll do it. But we never really got around to it. And then when COVID hit, we realized there's no sense of what is the known. We don't know. What is tomorrow going to give to us? No idea. And that's where Anurag and I just went, you know what? let's give it a shot. What have we got to lose? And that's exactly it. Here we are. Who would have thought?
Fantastic. So what we'll do, we'll go into some of the questions that YSPN has sort of come up with, and initially about the show, and then we'll go a little bit sort of away from the show and talk about you guys personally. But I think everybody's itching to know a bit more about the show because that's where they maybe know you from initially. So what sort of stood out for you guys in terms of being, I would say, the first turban Sikhs to be on such a show of that scale in Australia? I'm sure there's been sort of previous participation, but not on this scale. How did you find it in terms of sort of the production, in terms of fellow contestants? Was it ever a factor, both positively, negative in any way, in terms of your identity as Sikhs? And was there intrigue or was there confusion about what a Sikh was? So let's go with Jaskirat. What was your perspective on that?
Well, I'm sure I can speak on Anurag on behalf of this as well, is our perspective going into this was quite simple. We know we've been given a golden opportunity. We went to it going, wow, as you mentioned, Jeevan, there's not been many Sikhs on reality TV or just any mainstream TV. So we went into it going, okay, cool. We don't really want to go in and, go and teach everybody what are the Sikh values, do this and do that. We just want to raise awareness of Sikhs, show them who we are. Going into it and just purely seeing the other teammates and production, a lot of those people didn't even know who we were. And it really opened up our eyes. I mean, we were there, and as a lot of you guys would have seen, sometimes during the race, we would not have the red pugs on. We would just be in our patki underneath. So at the end of every day, we would be there retying our red turbans. The curiosity and the number of questions that every single person around us was raising really showed us why we were there. I mean, everybody was so fascinated and so intrigued. And sometimes people would come up to us and go, hey, I don't know if it's rude, but can I ask you, what does the turban stand for? Can I ask you, what does the kara mean? And I think that just shows to us that that's what the public is. A lot of them really want to know and want to understand, but they're not sure if it's borderline rude or not. And I think that's what opened up the eyes for me, that production and even our own teammates, they were now aware of everything.
Sure. So there was a lot of intrigue. So rather than sort of concern, or it was more intrigue. And so that's good. And Anurag, on your perspective?
I'd agree with Jazz wholeheartedly, exactly what he said. I think being on the show, it started a conversation with the people around us. And one thing we learned is in life in general, people hesitate to ask a question. And just like Jazz said, they might think it's borderline rude, but that's something that we are out there for. If we're walking down on the street and someone pulls us up and asks us a question about our identity, I think we would feel good about it instead of feeling rude. And and this is a great opportunity to do that. Everyone else on the show was very supportive. They wanted to learn, they wanted to know who we are as people. And that was absolutely incredible.
Sure. Was there a point, or did you might well have gone into this sort of knowing how big an impact that this may have in terms of the Sikh identity? Was that something that you guys sort of had from the get-go, or did it gradually sort of through the process, did it become apparent that this was such an opportunity and a forum for the Sikh identity to get out there? So when did it sort of click, or when did it happen for you, Anurag?
Well, going on the show, once we got told that we are in, we knew this was a massive opportunity. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to A, challenge ourselves, and B, represent our identity as who we are as Sikhs. And we knew this being on a national platform would be absolutely big. It would be huge. And that's something that both me and Jazz talked about. We knew the impact that we could have on the youth out there, anyone that looks different, the adults, just anyone, you name it. Like there's a lot of stereotypes out there that are associated with a man wearing a turban with a long beard. They're confused. Are they Muslim? Are they Sikh? What are they? And just like a previous question, they hesitate to ask the questions to understand and learn. And this was our opportunity to put ourselves out there and showcase exactly who we are.
Sure.
I'll add on that, Anurag. I think that's very true. And I agree with Anurag. I think what we had in mind was quite frankly, when we went into the show, we knew it. We knew we have a very strong opportunity, but it's up to us to make the most of it. I mean, it could come and go, or we can make the most of it. So what we did was, and I guess this is sort of inside information, was Anurag and I had a little logbook. At the start of every single day, we would open that book, and in the book, we had our brand image. Because we realized at the end of the day, it's reality TV. We know they're going to cut and edit TV to make it suit them. So what we did was we just told ourselves, look, they can only do with what they have. So if we give them what is our brand image, that's all they can play with. And I think, Javen, along with your answers, along with your questions, yeah, we realized that. So all we did was we tried to play that in our favor. And every day, before every interview, we would look at that brand image and go, okay, what is it? And how and what have we done throughout the day that reflects our brand image? Therefore, it was sort of incepted into our brains that this is what we're doing it for. And it was really good motivation, because we would be down some mornings and we'd be like, okay, you know, oh my God, here we go. How are we going to get through? But that book would always remind us, this is what we're here for. This is not just about the 250K. This is not just about coming first. It's about having this golden opportunity and really making that and making the most of it.
Sure.
And I think just to add on that one, we'd be lying if we were to say that we weren't worried about how we might get portrayed on the show. Being reality TV, there's cuts, there's edits, there's juxtaposition. But we knew if we stayed true and be ourselves, there's only so much that they can do. And that's exactly what it was. We just made sure we were ourselves, we stayed true to our values and who we are as people, and the rest, it's in autopilot mode.
Sure. And so the next question was sort of along the lines of how much pressure did you feel in that responsibility, which you've kind of already answered to some degree, but I'll sort of throw it back just in case you want to add anything in terms of personal, you know, whether it be family and individual. Did you feel that pressure in that responsibility? And obviously you must have felt a little bit taking a decision to create a logbook and the strategy that you took. I'm sure you felt some responsibility, but did you feel pressure or any sort of feelings of this is a really big deal and we might be judged or in that respect?
Oh, look, honestly, go for it.
Yeah, Jaskirat, you go first.
Honestly, yes. There are parts of it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I don't think personally, I didn't feel like I was going to be judged, but there was that sense of fear. And I think that's just how it is. I mean, we could go into an interview, right? We put so much effort in, we do the application, we get so excited upon that first interview, and we start thinking about, oh, how is this job going to be? Where's the office? What am I going to wear? But then we have to take a step back and hold on a second. I'm only in my first interview. And for me personally, that's how that race felt. You know, we've done so much, we've made it through. We're on that first episode. I really just didn't want to get eliminated. And I know Anurag's got the same point of view, is we just really didn't want to get eliminated. While at the end of the day, you know what, even making it onto the show and being on episode 1 is a great achievement. But we had bigger aspirations, we had bigger goals. And for me anyway, it was that fear of letting go of an opportunity that I haven't had.
Sure. And Anurag, anything to add to that?
I think, like I said, pressure was definitely a thing that we knew that was going to come with this opportunity. And as we were ramping up towards the first episode, I remember we woke up at 3 a.m. To start the first leg. And we were nervous. We were very nervous. We didn't know what to do. All that planning, all that strategy went straight out the door when Boy said, race starts now. And that's where we knew that there's no point of us going in here thinking of winning this and coming out of this at the top. Let's take it step by time. We set our goals in a way, let's get through the first leg. Like Jazz said, our goal was to not get eliminated in the first leg. Yes, it's been it's absolutely brilliant what we've done to get to this point. We've won off 30,000 applications, but the race really starts now. And thinking of like putting a goal in place that's going to put pressure on us is only going to make things worse for us. It's going to take away from our performance. So we told ourselves, let's take it one step at a time. Let's get through the first leg and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So I'll share with you a bit of personal perspective that ties into this. So you can probably tell from the accent, I'm actually from the UK. So in terms of diversity and recognition, the UK, I would say, is maybe 10 years ahead of Australia, and particularly maybe even more where I am in Perth. So I had a situation where I was in a shopping centre and just waiting to go up or down a travelator, and I let this Australian woman go in front of me, and she turned around, and I thought something's up here. She's looking at me, and she said, "You're a Sikh, right?" And I said, "Yes, I'm a Sikh." She goes, "I'm watching your two lads on The Amazing Grace," and I said, "Yeah, they're doing really well." And she said, "I'm really fascinated about the Sikh religion now." And I actually had sort of a 10-minute conversation with her just in regards to sort of a summary on what is a Sikh. And she said, "I didn't even know you guys existed." So for me, coming from the UK, it's like sort of picturing what things were like 10, 15 years ago, and where I would say to my family and my parents when we're watching TV, and you'd watch these sort of reality TV or soap opera shows, and you would spot a turban Sikh in the background, and now they're gradually now they're main characters, and they're everywhere. So to have that sort of power where the identity is in people's foresight and is now giving a forum for Sikhs to sort of be seen is quite interesting. So how, as a catalyst, where do you see things going forward? And have you got any stories of the impact that maybe surprised you? You knew that there would be some sort of interest and some intrigue, but have you got any stories to share where you thought, wow, this has really impacted the Sikh identity? Anurag, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's been hundreds and hundreds of people that have reached out to us. The support has been absolutely incredible. There's many stories. Both me and Jazz and today, I think, all night sharing stories here. But I think couple of ones that really hit home was I got a message from an 8-year-old kid who obviously going through school. A kid with a Portugal, like he was going through times where he'd get name calling in school or bullying in school because of the way he looked. And he reached out to us and he told us the way we've been racing and the way we've represented ourselves and the community out there makes him feel very proud of who we are and gives him the courage to just carry on and see all this stuff as white noise, as block it all out. I think that to me was absolutely incredible. If we can help one kid or one youth we can bring that message out there to one person out there. I mean, I think we've done our job. 250K, it's money comes, goes. But these things, these experiences and this sort of impact on a youth, I mean, it could change their life and it's money can't buy.
Sure. Jaskirat?
Oh, look, exactly like Anurag was saying, there are so many of those stories. And Anurag, just in a similar story, I received a message from a mum. And the same thing where the mum was coming back and saying, my kid who I was trying to force, not really to force, but trying to, go to school who would wear a patka. He was constantly coming back and saying he was being bullied and he didn't like it and he was unhappy. And the message from the mum was purely, now he comes back from school so proud, so happy. And she's messaging Anurag and I going, I'm so grateful for you to be able to instill those values into a kid that many parents try and force but aren't able to. And that's the power of media, right? Kids look on TV, kids see things, they learn from things they see around the world. And the more, like Jeevan said, is the more we can showcase that to the world, the better it really would be. And I think another story as well along with this is a lady had messaged Anurag and I, who unfortunately is going through chemotherapy. So she's lost a lot of her hair. But she messaged us saying, guys, I'm so proud of the way you guys have held your identity and the way you've put yourself out. And she basically said, if you're able to go on TV and be so proud of who you are, why am I not? And so now she's messaging us saying, you know what, I'm losing all my hair, I'm bald, but I feel so proud to go out in public and go, you know what, it's my identity and it's who I am. And that's the impact the impact that media really has. It's all the way from the youth, all the way through the old generations. It's such a powerful medium.
Sure. No, that's really interesting.
I've got another one to add to that one. I think the impact hasn't just been with the Sikh community. I think it's been all across all boards. I had a lady who wears a hijab message me on social media talking about how the way we've portrayed ourselves has helped her change her mindset on identity and appearance, from feeling inferior to she knows she's in the spotlight, and she just now knows to make the most of it and leverage off it, because people spent years and years and so much time and effort just to get noticed, whereas she gets noticed like this because of her identity. And that, again, is very powerful. It's that shift of mindset about your identity, feeling like you might be thinking that identity and the way you look is an obstacle in life. It hinders things that you want to do, but you know what? It's probably one of your biggest strengths.
Sure. So sort of similar to that note, so obviously YSPN is known for trying to support and promote the, shall we say, sort of people's escalation in their career and progressing and trying to reach higher in terms of their skills. What would you say to people that are struggling with identity and diversity and feeling that they have a fear or they're on the back foot in terms of their career progression? So what kind of tips or what guidance can you give people to try and say, look, it's okay that this is your identity, and how can they overcome that either internal fear or genuine sort of fear that there is some issues in regards to diversity in the workplace? What would you say to somebody, Jaskirat, that has that fear in progressing with their career?
Oh, I agree with them. I mean, I think that fear is very common. And to be honest, any person growing up, whether it be a fear of identity, be a fear of religion, a fear of the way we look, the way our skin is, everyone has that fear in one way or another. The fear that we hold, and in terms of sort of progressing our career, is it's the fear of the unknown. I mean, it's not that the people who might be interviewing us or where we're going think any lower of us or think any different of us. The only fear really here is that they just don't know who we are. And I think, Jeevan, as you were saying before, is if we are fearful, if we have that fear of going, oh, I'm not sure if that person's gonna, like me, will I fit in? Raise it, bring it up, be proud of who you are and raise it up. And more than likely what you'll find out is on the other side, they probably had fear of asking you the question of, hey, what does that turban mean? Or, what does that identity mean? It's both ways. Let's remove that barrier, be transparent, and just watch the free flowing.
Sure. And Anurag?
I 100% agree with that. I think the fear and these obstacles are all in our head. A lot of these things, yes, we see it from experience, but at the same time, we can't use that. We can't let that impact our career progression. So the way we need to look at it is, hey, it's okay. Something's happened in the past, but let's just give it a shot. I mean, I'm a firm believer in you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So you got to remember that identity is a big part of who we are, and it actually puts us in the spotlight. So anything and everything you do gets noticed. And if we change our mindset from feeling inferior, having these fears because of our identity, to all of a sudden feeling that we're not superior, but we're in the spotlight, anything that we do will get noticed, I think that will take us a long way.
Sure. Yeah.
And just to add to that, Jeevan, I mean, look at where we are. Right? How many, and it's a serious question, how many people have feared to apply on The Amazing Race or any reality TV show because you know why? Oh, I wear a turban or I have a different identity, whatever that be, they wouldn't want me in. Reality is it doesn't matter. Go and apply, give it a shot. What have you got to lose?
Sure. And going on from that, so obviously you guys have done a fantastic job of, say, opening a door for sort of people to get on the back of. So this show could be seen, and you guys being a part of the show, as a bit of a catalyst and a sort of a kick up the backside for people to actually leverage that catalyst and say, okay, these guys can do it, we can do it. So are there any sort of things that you feel that people can do or should be doing or should be thinking about in order to leverage the door that you potentially opened for the Sikh identity, and for people to sort of drop those fears or pre-misconceptions that they have in their mind of, you know, this is too challenging or too difficult? What advice, what guidance would you say to people sitting at home now thinking that, you know, I want to go down the route of media, or I want to do something which is not necessarily what the norm is for our culture, you know, the stereotypical, just be an accountant, be a lawyer, which are perfectly good careers, but people that have maybe an inner passion to do something else, what would you say to those people now that there is potentially a door that's been opened? Anurag, what would you say to that?
I mean, just like I said, I think that fear, that idea of like having all those doubts are in our head, and they've been instilled in us by ourselves. So I see us as the biggest barrier, a hurdle that we need to come over. Our mind is something that if you can overcome and train it to think a certain way, I mean, the world's your oyster. It. I think there's a saying, it's man jeeta jag jag jeet, which that to me tells me if I can conquer my mind, I can conquer the world. And I think we went into the show, and that's something that both me and Jazz have learned about ourselves, and we'd apply moving forward in our lives too, is if you can conquer our mind and train our mind to think a certain way, anything's possible.
Sure. And Jaskirat?
Oh, look, I think the only thing I can add to that is I completely agree with Anurag, and the fact that you're not alone, right? We've all wanting to do this. There are so many people out there that want to try different things, whether that be media, like you mentioned, Jeevan, whether it be newsreader, like it could be anything, but reach out. We've got community, we've got forums. Take YSPN, that's a perfect forum, right? Reach out to people and go, you know what, this is what I want to achieve. Where can I go? And like Anurag said, don't let this stop you, right?
Sure.
Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, and just give it a shot. Ultimately, you will never regret it if you tried.
Sure. And in terms of, again, following up on that, and because family and culture is always a big sort of impact in the decisions that you make. So just your personal experience, what was sort of your sort of local and broader community, and even sort of close and extended families, what were their perspective when they heard or when they learned that you were going on a show and you're putting yourself out there? Were there any negatives, positives, or what was the sort of feedback from them? Jessica, what's your point of view?
Oh, it was from my side, it was all at first, it was different stages. At first, it was, oh, wow, really? That's so exciting. And then my mom and dad went, wait, you're going to be gone for 8 weeks during COVID? Are you going to be safe? Who's going to take care of you? How is that all going to work? So it was that typical cycle of, parenting. But once, they realized that, hey, it's okay. I'm not 5 years old anymore, but it's okay. It was all actually support. From my parents and from the community, because before we went on the show, we weren't actually allowed to tell a lot of people. We had to sign NDAs on who we can and we can't tell. But the close family that did know, they were very supportive of me and Anurag, I'm sure, as well, because ultimately they knew that this is a platform, this is an opportunity that we have, and quite frankly, it's once in a lifetime. So let's give it a shot.
Sure. And Anurag, for you?
I think for me, my parents are more excited and more pushy towards me going than actually I was at times. Because initially there was a stage where both me and Jazz were thinking 2 months off work, career versus this opportunity, what do we do? And that's where we told ourselves, you know what, this is a once in a lifetime golden opportunity. Let's give it a shot. And I think massive shout out to Balraj and Sajid, our best mates, who sat us down one Friday night and told us, what are you guys doing? You won't remember 10 years down the track what you did at work in those 2 months, but you will remember this experience, and you don't know how this is going to shape your life moving forward. And I think that sums it up. The support has been absolutely incredible, even before the show started, and even after. It's been overwhelming.
Yeah, fantastic. Guys, that's been really interesting. So I'm shortly going to hand this over to Hasveen over in Sydney, and she is going to filter through some questions that we've had from participants or comments that we've had from participants. And again, I just want to remind you guys that are listening in, please send through any questions, any comments that you have for the guys, and we'll try to get through all of them, but depending on timing, we might not be able to. So please send the questions in anyway. We might be able to get those questions answered after the webinar, and we will do sort of a post-webinar summary for guys. So if there's any questions that can't get answered in time, we will try our best to get them answered by the guys. But just want to say thank you from me, and if Hasveen is ready to take over, please show yourself. There we go.
Hi.
Okay, so
Thanks,
this
Jeevan.
is Hasveen, and I will hand over to you. Fire away.
Thanks, Jeevan. Yeah, as Jeevan mentioned, my name is Hasveen. I lead the Sydney team at YSPN, and I'm just going to run through some of your questions that have been coming through. So if you do have any, keep sending them through. So the first question from Balraj Singh: what was the impact of being a Sikh on your ability to connect with your audience and colleagues on the show? So Anurag, do you want to start that off?
Sure. I think being Sikh, we stood out. We stood out like a thorn. We stood out in a crowd. We stand out in a crowd. And I think straight away, as we walked into the room, we had a presence. I remember day one, we were in isolation and we came in for a briefing with I think we walked in, both me and Jazz were wearing a turban, and we just walked in, everyone just looked at us as two confident Sikhs, and they wanted to know who we are. And that was an absolutely incredible experience and an opportunity, because it got a conversation started. Most of the people on the show surprisingly didn't know who we were as people, who Sikhs are. A lot of them thought we were Muslim. A lot of them didn't understand why we wear a turban, and they had a very open view towards it, to a point where there were times when they asked us, hey, is it okay if we can touch the turban? What material what it feels like? Can you tie a turban on us? And I remember there was a point where we'd get the camera crew that would help us tie turbans, because they would hold their camera phones on a selfie mode in our faces, so we could tie turbans for our interviews. And it was that idea of support and acceptance, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. Jaskirat, anything to add?
100% agree with Anurag. Perfect.
Yeah, I love that photo of you guys tying the turbans on the cowboys as well.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Next question from Shrishti. Did you guys have any concerns going into this adventure from a personal and professional point of view?
Yeah, look, I 100%. Going on to this show, Anurag and I are both career driven. We both do, we put our head down, we do focus on our careers. We didn't want to come across on reality TV as failures. And that's a common fear. I mean, that's undeniable. That's what it was, because we were quite fearful that what if they made the edit for us to look like complainers, whiners? Because at the end of the day, you can cut and paste anything you want. Or what if, we just got eliminated in the first episode? Will people perceive us as, yeah, they're not really good, they're not really strong? And that was a big fear. But at the end of the day, Anurag and I just said, you know what? Are we going to sit here and live our lives based on fear? Or are we going to give things a shot? And that's all we did. We just gave it a shot. For me, that was the career side. Personally, not really. I think I've always been brought up in a way, personally anyway, just give things a shot. What have I got to lose? As long as it's not going to physically injure me, then you know what? It's worth giving a shot.
Yeah, that's great. Anurag, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, yeah, going onto the show, we knew that we were representing the community at some point, and we knew that the pressure was somewhat on, but we just didn't want to think about it. We just wanted to put our head down and just be ourselves, and we knew the rest will fall in place. We can either sit there, think about the what if scenarios and what may or may not happen, or we can just give it a shot, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, that's great. There's another question just on the professional side. What did your colleagues kind of think of your appearance on the show?
My colleagues have been very, very, very supportive, to a point where they would book in lunchtime meetings so they can all sit in a room and watch the episode Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday lunchtimes from 12 to 1:30. So the support has been absolutely incredible from family, community, and the professional colleagues.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. For those that know what stand-ups are, I'll just say stand-ups are designed to be 15 minutes. My problem is every Monday morning, our stand-ups, 10 minutes of it will be focused on, Jazz, what happened in that episode? How did you do that? How did you do that? So if anybody at work wasn't watching the show, they were watching it by the end of it. But everybody loved it. And even in our downs, even in our episodes where we weren't doing necessarily too well, people were still going, well done, well done. So it went really well.
We have viewing parties at work. Every random weekday. And I think even on the finale, all the work colleagues got together. Obviously, I couldn't make it because me and Jazz were watching it together, but they were all watching it together. So the support was absolutely incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Okay, hi, Jaskirat and Anurag. You both did an amazing job setting the new standard for the Sikh representation on Australian TV. What is your vision for the next threshold? Having a Sikh host on a show like The Amazing Race, having more mainstream Sikh journalists on major network TV. So I guess, you know, what do you hope for in the future coming off the back of this? Similar to the catalyst question Jeevan asked earlier, but what would you guys like to see?
For me, I don't really have a clear, oh, this or that. My hope is just if someone wants to do something, they give it a shot. Now, whether that be, like you said, whether it be a host, whether it be a newsreader, whether it be anything, is just give it a shot. And my only thing is, reality is look where we are, right? We aren't, like Jeevan was mentioning before, is we're not 10 years ahead where UK is. But we have taken that first step, and many before us have taken that first step. What we need to make sure is this isn't just an isolated step and it ends here. We need to make sure the ball keeps rolling, right? We were given the fortunate opportunity of getting the ball rolling, and we tried as much as we could. But we need everybody else to keep going. If you want to, give it a shot. And I can tell you right now that there are other shows coming up with Sikhs on it. Obviously, disclosures and stuff, I can't say anything, but there is something coming up and there is a Sikh on it. So you know what? The momentum's already rolling. Just jump on the bandwagon and do what you want.
Yeah, great. Just off the back of that, there's a question about how do you both plan to maintain the momentum? So what are you guys working on anything in the next few weeks and months to maintain kind of the kind of celebrity status that you have, or are you, you know, gonna let other people take the wheel?
I think by Jazz and I, we just trying to leverage off this opportunity and just like you said, keep the ball rolling, keep this. There's a lot of conversations that have started. A lot of people have asked questions. We want to keep going with this. We don't want this to just be at an Australian level. We want this to be at a global level. And if we can help the Sikh youth and help them get through, help them change their mindset of, hey, my identity is an obstacle in life, to that mindset of, hey, my identity is my biggest strength. I think that's something that we're really aiming for. We don't have a plan in place as to how we're going to do this, but that's something that we want to do. And being here, talking to the audience of YSPN it's exactly what we need to do. We just need to keep having these sort of conversations. And the more our message gets out there, the more we're ticking the box and getting closer to that goal.
I just want to add on that is we're taking opportunities as they come and go, like Anurag said. I think one of the best opportunities that we do have coming up and that we're very grateful for is actually going to a primary school. A principal of a primary school had reached out to us and said, a lot of our kids are actually quite big fans of you. We would love for you to come, give us a bit of a talk and, you know, just uplift the morale and motivation of the kids. And I mean, a year ago, 12 months ago, Anurag and I, as much as we may be great individuals, I would never have thought of that opportunity ever. So that's what we're trying to say. Is it doesn't necessarily for us have to be TV shows. It doesn't have to be anything. Whether it could be micro, it could be macro. Whatever it is, we just want to give it a shot.
Yeah, fantastic. Got a really good question from Sitji. Has your experience changed your view on Australia and what it means to be Australian? Anurag, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. I'm incredibly proud to be an Australian. Australia, it's a land of opportunities, and it's a place where we may think that we were not getting accepted at times, but you'd be surprised. It's like the idea of, it's just not knowing. It's the idea of not knowing the unknown. It's the idea of, hey, the other person sitting across the room is judging me, but it's actually they're more intrigued by who you are and what you look like. So they're actually fearing asking you a question because they're worried about offending you by asking a certain question. But you very quickly start thinking that from their body language that, hey, they're judging me because of the way I look. And that's the idea. Like, you just need to get out there and talk to people and let people ask you questions, which I'm sure we all out there would love people to come up to and ask us questions. But one message we want to put out there to mainstream Australians too, is it's perfectly fine to go up to a Sikh man or anyone that's of a Sikh faith that asks any questions about the way they look or their identity. We'd be more than happy, like you even said, spend 10 minutes of our day having a chat and telling them who we are as people and what we stand for.
Yeah, fantastic. Jaskirat, anything to add?
Yeah, for me, I think I can answer that in two parts. I think the first part for me is 100%. It's such a proud thing to be Australian. Why? Look at the show. Look at the participants on the show. That's a representation of the real Australia. We aren't this typical, all white per se. We're a multicultural nation from all kinds of background with all kinds of different identity. And that's what the show represented. And the show pulled in a whole variety of different people, showcased them throughout the race and showed people working together. Again, just a metaphor for life. And that's what Australia is, right? If we can do that on the show, that's what we can do around Australia. So for me, yeah, very proud. And the other part of it is just quite simply, we got the opportunity to see parts of Australia that, quite frankly, I would never have thought of seeing in my life. Like Coober Pedy, I didn't even know how to spell Coober Pedy before we rocked up there. But it was unreal. It was such a beautiful spot. Or going to the outback and taking a hot air balloon through it makes you realize there's so much more to Australia that we just haven't seen.
Yeah, for sure. It was really very refreshing to see such a diverse range of people on the show. So really fantastic job by Channel 10 to make sure that they had that diversity on the show, and particularly when they're showcasing Australia. So it's really nice to see that. A question from Tika. What was your top takeaway from the experience on the show?
I think the top takeaway for me, quite frankly, would have to be just the fact, we knew it, but the fact that it's all in here. There were so many challenges that Anurag and I would go through that, quite frankly, the reason why we made it to the finals is because we didn't know this throughout the race, and only when we were watching it back, there's so many people face the challenge and go, ooh, I can't do it. Ooh, I don't know if I can do this. Ooh, I can't do this. And Anurag and I would be sitting there next to each other watching the race and going, hold on a second. We never really did that. We would always be like, ooh, that's going to be tough. But no way did we ever sit there and go, ooh, I can't do it. So for me, one of the key takeaways out of that was just purely, that ability to just go and go give things a shot is really going to be quite helpful. And that's something that I'm very proud that I've been able to do.
Yeah. Anurag, anything to add to that?
I think I 100% agree with what Jazz just said. I think it's the idea of giving everything a shot. You may have fears, and if you get given an opportunity, I think one thing I can relate to is standing on that sky bridge, trying to walk across the cliff in the Blue Mountains. Going on the show, I had a fear of heights. I don't know why people jump out of planes or would walk across a canyon or abseil. And I think it was that idea of trying to take control over your thought process and how your mind thinks. And all of a sudden, things are a lot easier and you're smashing through your fears and obstacles in life. I remember walking across that sky bridge and telling myself, I knew it was initially they told us, hey guys, it's 100 meters off the bottom of the valley from where you're walking. I walked in there telling myself, oh, it's only a meter and there's water down there. I'm wearing a life jacket, so if I fall, it'll be fine. And all of a sudden, it was a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. It's all a mind game. So A bit about your I guess a Sikh identity. How did you guys portray the Sikh identity and the practices on the show? I mean, you obviously mentioned it, and on a number of occasions, you know, you said that it's all about seva. Do you have any other examples of how you showcase the identity on the show? Just
I think.
sorry, Anurag.
Sure, I'll go and Jazz, you can have it. Go at it. So I think the whole idea, the Sikh values of compassion, integrity, community service, and generosity, I think that's just been instilled in us. So as much as we made, even though we made notes and talked about what's our brand image at the start of each day, a lot of these things just came organically to us. I mean, there was times where we took time out and there was teams that were down. I remember Jaskirat and Catherine, they were down. We were second last and they were running last. We took time out to cheer them up to make sure they continue on. In hindsight, maybe not the smartest decision because they could have ended up beating us and us going home. But it's that idea of community service. It just comes to us naturally. And that's something that we want to showcase to the people out there too, of who we are as people and Sikhs. I think we, as Australian Sikhs and Sikhs in general, Khalsa Aid and all these organizations all around the world do some incredible work. And I think we wanted to use this platform and this opportunity to tell people, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do. And there's a number of people that will come up to us. Oh, I remember Sikhs going out during the bushfires and handing out free meals, or during COVID in Melbourne and handing out free meals to unit blocks that people locked in. It's the idea of recognition. It's the idea of recognition for the Sikhs, who we are, and trying to break some of the stereotypes that are out there.
100% agree with Anurag. And that's reality what it was. And as Anurag was mentioning, it was often a dilemma because, like you were saying, and the producers quite often, they ask us the same question, going, you're running a race, but you're also living your life. And often it was like two sides of a scale. It's how do we weigh the two? You know, do we want to run the race and, you know, just be, as some teams do it, quite cunning, quite, you know, deceptive, stealing people's taxis, or, you know, stealing in the previous season, stealing someone's dumpling? Or do we not really focus on the race too much and focus on, you know, who we really are as individuals, and try and help people, try and help Jaskirat and Catherine? And, you know, as people may not even know, even in that final episode, when the taxi came for the girls, it actually stopped in front of us. But we went, no, we didn't order this taxi, we're going to pass it on. And at that moment, the camera crew looked at us and just went, are you guys serious? Because at the end of the day, we would love to win on our own merit, but we're not going to pull anyone else down for it. If they've ordered it, I don't want to come across and be seen as someone who I'm not really, just because I'm in a race. And I think that sort of balance is what Anurag and I were trying to balance throughout the whole race.
And I think that came back and helped us tenfold. I remember the second last leg, we were counting bicycle wheels. We thought we'd be good at it, and we got the numbers wrong. And that's where the girls came up running to us and gave us an answer, and that's what got us through to the finale. So again, it's that idea of helping others. It's selfless service, seva. It's that whole idea of selfless service, and it will come back and help you. What goes around comes around, and that's exactly what happened on the show.
Yeah, and you guys did a really good job at you know, kind of explaining to people that's such a fundamental principle of Sikhism, that selfless service. And yeah, that was really great to see. And so a bit about your motivations for joining the show. Like, what, I mean, I know you mentioned you had good friends that persuaded you to join the show, but within yourselves, was there any motivations or any kind of compelling reasons why you wanted to join the show, put yourself out there, to be so exposed?
I can answer that. Yeah, we're crazy. It's as simple as that. No, Anurag and I love this. I mean, we would go on holidays and we would randomly jump on, go, ooh, let's jump on this random bus in South America and see where it goes. So for us, we really, really enjoy doing random things. And then this opportunity comes around and we're like, wait a second, we can maybe leverage this opportunity and do what we enjoy. And so it was great for us.
Yeah, we both thrive off the idea of the unknown, and both Jazz and I rocked up to the airports and caught mystery flights, and we both ended up in Bali on solo trips and with just a backpack. And it's just the whole idea of trying to learn to survive in a changing environment and being flexible and adaptive. And also at the same time, we knew this was going to be an opportunity of a lifetime. We'd see in some parts of Australia that we didn't even know existed, and at the same time, we're challenging ourselves. And I think that to us made it a no-brainer. And on top, the cherry on the cake was the idea of being able to represent the community and trying to put out a message and help start a conversation and raise awareness about Sikhs and the Sikh values. We just couldn't say no to it.
Yeah. Great. We have a couple more minutes. If you have any more questions, definitely send them through. And a question about kind of role modeling. How do you think role modeling on this scale will have an impact on the Sikh community? I know we've touched on it a little bit, but do you think it'll be a catalyst for, other people to kind of practice Sikhi in the way that you guys and have been, proud of that? Or how do you think, role modeling will, on this scale, will affect the youth? Whoever, Jaskirat, do you want to start?
Yeah. Oh, look, I can't sit here for certain and go, look, it will have a positive or negative or have any impact. But just from the messages that we've received, Anurag and I, from this, just, through since episode 1 through to now, has shown me that this has had a big role, has had a big impact. Now, I mean, role model for me is a very big term, quite frankly. It's like saying, oh, here you are, you're a role model. I personally don't see myself as a role model. I just see myself as someone who's been given an opportunity and I made the most of it, and I'm trying to open the door for more people. So whether or not, I really do hope that, the youth coming through can see Anurag and I and see what we've done on the show and be more exposed to Sikhi and maybe perhaps just go in and, be more inquisitive, try and understand, why were these people, when Anurag and I were on the show, we were talking about seva, we were talking about compassion. What did that? What was this Sikh fighting spirit? Why are they wearing the turban? What was all that story? And I think that for me is just hopefully that was just a platform that some of the youth growing up can look at.
Yeah, definitely. Anurag, anything to add?
I think Jazz has hit the nail on the head there. I think one thing I could add is just not just at a Sikh community level, at a wider level. I think hopefully this opportunity has helped us change some of the stereotypes that might have been out there potentially, and associate words such as strong, driven, humble, people that love the community and love giving back to the community. Hopefully these are words that now the wider Australia can relate to with Sikhs. And I know a lot of work's been done, but I think this is just another drop in the ocean. Hopefully that will help bring that message across.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just on that, I think I want to add a story on that is, it's funny because I think it's like 2 or 3 of these messages that came through to us is people that got into a car. So I got this message and it was, I'm not sure who this person was, and it was on a public forum, said, I jumped into an Uber. I looked around at the driver and the Uber driver had a turban on. The first thing I did was going, are you a Sikh? And this lady wrote on that one of the comments on a public forum and just ran, and the Uber driver's face lit up. And he came around and said, I am so proud of these 2 boys because finally someone is coming to me and asking me about my identity. And I think that sort of shift is what's really important is everybody who's come in and taken an Uber, they've recognized, if someone came down the street next to me, they see me wearing a turban. How many of them come and ask a question? How many of them, want to leverage that 10, 15, 20-minute Uber trip to actually learn something? And there was like 3 of those messages that came through from different people going, oh yeah, I noticed that person who was wearing it. Then I asked him, oh, I noticed that person in the car. And like Jeevan had mentioned before as well, on the escalator, that is opening up a whole world. And it's just like inquisitive. It's a curiosity. And for me, it's raising awareness. And role model term, any term you want to call it, raising awareness is something that money can't buy. And it just needs to be done with any opportunity that you get.
Yeah, definitely. And the stories that you guys shared, those were, you know, 2 or 3 stories out of probably hundreds and hundreds of stories that are happening that, you know, haven't come to your attention at all. So the impact that you guys have had is definitely far-reaching. Just one last question. Did you guys experience any backlash from appearing on TV, or was it all kind of very positive response from, you know, both the community and you know, the wider audience, the Australian audience as well? Jaskirat, Anurag, either of you?
Actually, no. And I'll be honest, I did expect some. I honestly did expect a fair bit of backlash. You know, unfortunately, the racism that does go around, but actually nothing. We copped a little bit in the beginning on just some general stuff. But since that point onwards, we're talking hundreds and thousands of random messages. Nothing really, no backlash on us. Sure, there was plenty of backlash. Why would you U-turn those people? You know, why would you give them the sabotage? But that's part of the race. But other than that, we actually, I don't know about you, but I actually didn't receive any backlash in terms of my identity. And for me, that just showcases this fear that people have of going, oh no, people are going to perceive me different. People are going to say stuff to me. Not really.
I think going, just like Jazz said, going into the show, we did think, yes, there might be some backlash. There was always going to be someone that's going to be unhappy, or they might have to say about certain things that we're doing and the way we're portraying ourselves. And that's the reason why we went on the show telling ourselves, we are not role models. We are not, the role model word is a very big word and comes with a lot of responsibility. We told ourselves we're just 2 humans, 2 Australians who happen to be Sikh who are on the show. And that's why we knew. And the other thing that we talked about is, if there is any of that stuff, it's all white noise. Let's just block it all out and focus on what we need to do. Because us reading those things and letting that impact us is only going to take away from the efforts that we're putting in and what we've got going. We've got the ball rolling. Let's just keep it going. Let's forget about what X, Y, and Z has to say about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to add on that, something Anurag and I did say actually in our second interview, because quite frankly, is when we would post our second interview, there were a few questions on, you know, Sikh, oh, you know, how does this mean? What is Sikh? And Anurag and I were taking a step back, and we actually made it very clear to him, and Anurag touched on this very briefly, is we are not Sikhs on the show. We are Australians on the show who happen to be Sikh. And for me, that was a very strong thing that I want to convey, because if ultimately, you know, we are Australians who happen to be Sikh, not just, oh, you know, we're Sikhs on the show. I think that was a very strong image and a very strong line that we want to make very clear.
Yeah, it's a very subtle but very important kind of difference there. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's just on the hour, so that's all we have time for. But Anurag and Jaskirat, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, can they follow you on your socials? Do you want to share your handles?
Sure. So if anyone's got any questions, or they want to have a chat offline, or want to share any stories, would love to take some time out and have a conversation around it. They can follow us on Instagram. My Instagram's Bearded Singh, and you can also follow me on Facebook, Anurag Sopti.
Same thing. I mean, not the same handle, obviously. Although it is funny, the number of people that come up and go, Anurag, Jazz, because people can't really distinguish between the two. But you know, look, guys,
I'm a better looking one.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah, no, look, guys, any questions, anything on the show you want to understand, or if next year, if any of you want to apply and want any tips, want any suggestions on what to do, honestly, feel free to reach out. Look, any social medias, look up our names, Jaskirat Dhingra, or, you know, Jazz_JD, anything, Google it, you'll find it. Simple as that. Reach out.
Fantastic.
Always here.
Yeah, I'd love to see another pair of Sikhs on the show next year. That'll be awesome. With that said, that kind of wraps it up. If you do want to, you know, hear what we get up to here at YSPN, you can follow us on our social channels. We just released a newsletter as well, so you can subscribe to that. Anurag and Jaskirat, thank you so much. It was such an insightful conversation, and particularly those stories were very, very powerful. And I'm sure, you know, there's the impact is kind of being felt around Australia. So thank you, and globally as well. So thank you. Yeah, that's a wrap. And we'll see you guys at the next webinar, or some of the geos here in Australia and New Zealand have started having in-person events, which is great. So if you do want to know when the next event is in your geo, you can just follow us on our socials. And thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.